Okay, so let's keep it real on what's the best war arc in anime and manga, because we could talk about them all day. There's a lot of epic war arcs in anime and manga. Usually they're used as the finale, the grandiose final arc of a series to kind of cap everything off and solve all problems. Let's just go into a big old grandiose war, and oftentimes those are either the pinnacles or the downfall of many said series when it comes to, again, introducing the concept of war. And before we continue, if you would hit that subscribe button and that bell, I'd greatly appreciate it. Do me a favor, do you a favor. We all win. Hit it. And here I'm going to go into a few different war arcs and why they are freaking epic, iconic, or maybe a little bit disappointing, because I want to kind of narrow down what could be the best war arc in all of anime and manga, and I kind of think I know which one I'm going to stick with. But let's go through this list, shall we? Hands down, a very notable war arc that people don't really mention that much because it's a part of a series that is already considered an iconic and classic series in and of itself is Gurren Lagann. Because Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann is an anime that features a war between humanity and the Spiral King, Lord Gnome, who rules over the surface world. The war is fought using massive mecha called gunmen, which are powered by energy called spiral power, and the series follows the journey of a young man named Simon who becomes a hero in the war. And mainly this war is waged because the Spiral King wants to maintain the status quo, with humanity living underground and him ruling over the surface. The reason for that is he fears the spiral power, which is generated by the will of humanity to evolve and grow. Lord Gnome believes that if humans are allowed to surface and use their spiral power to its fullest potential, they will eventually destroy the universe. And to be honest with you, this is easily one of the most over-the-top wars you will ever see in any anime, especially towards the grand finale when you literally have these spaceships are throwing universes at each other. So maybe there was a little bit, just a smidge of validity to the Spiral King's fears of things spiraling out of control. Hey, see what I did there? But between all of the epic and iconic moments, some very heartfelt deaths, and just in general, the insane amount of power that is utilized in this series between the mecha and whatnot, and not to mention Yoko is one hell of a piece of eye candy for a lot of fans. I'm talking post-time skip Yoko, relax. Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann is a war... Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann is an anime with a war arc that is very much so overlooked, despite the fact that it is indeed war and it is indeed epic and beyond over the top. If you want to ever mention a series that has a war that just takes it to beyond the limit, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann has that. Then, of the many wars, but in particular, I'm kind of narrowing it down to the one that leads ultimately to Zod in Berserk during the Golden Age arc. The war that leads into Zod, which ultimately leads to Guts and Griffith going up against Zod, is a fascinatingly incredible arc. Again, the war itself isn't the most intricate, although there are a few different scenes in there that is like, holy cow, but it's the finale of this war that leads to Guts and Griffith being showcased the depths of and the limits to their human potential because they fight up against this giant Goliath of a monstrosity of a beast known as Zod that shows them, yo, I get it. Y'all had a lot of wins, dog. Y'all had a good run, you know what I'm saying? Y'all did y'all thing, but in comparison to me, in comparison to a beast-like demon, yeah, y'all ain't nothing. And it was also a defining moment in the series, and just in general, again, I think it kind of humbled both of them. It humbled Guts in a way of showcasing that despite how epic you think you are, despite how manly you may feel, there are things out here in this world that you don't understand that you will never be able to slay as is right now. And likewise with Griffith, I think it showcased him that even with his goal in mind and his goal feeling like it's within reach, it could easily be snapped away. And it also gave a little bit of an insight into the delicacy of their relationship. The fact that despite Guts following Griffith, ultimately there are monsters out there that could easily wipe away both of them. So while he looks at Guts as a golden ticket to the top, so to speak, and maybe vice versa of Guts looking at Griffith as a golden ticket to just a new life, not necessarily the financial gain or the notoriety, but just in general, this guy he's looking at as like his guiding light. I think Zod kind of beating and damn near mutilating the crap out of both of them was a testament to, yeah, things aren't gonna go smooth. And ultimately, it was just jarring nonetheless to see this because it was mainly grounded to reality up until that point, and then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, demons. Alrighty then. And maybe I'm more so fascinated by that battle and not necessarily the war part of it, but damn it was a war. And another incredible war is within Code Geass, the Rebellion, Lelouch v Britannia, easily demonstrated that maybe the war itself isn't one that fans constantly clamor over and remember, but the war strategies that was implied and utilized via Lelouch v Britannia time and time again demonstrated that, okay, this guy is a master tactician of war. Yeah, you could throw the argument of he's using these eyes known as the Geass that basically can change somebody's mind at will. He can make somebody do whatever he tells them to do. But at the same time, he still is a crafty and tactical dude. So much so that pretty much what he does, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil you, but towards the end of the series is beyond words of how he manipulated the entire freaking world to his agenda. If that doesn't speak volumes about what a war tactician Lelouch v Britannia is, nothing will. Not to mention the fact of him triumphing against his father that has been holding him in his mental captivity for his entire life, fighting his way through the depths of starting off as Lelouch Lamproods, not even realizing that, yo dog, I'm absolutely here for greatness. Like the wars that you go through with the mecha, which is kind of crazy because despite the fact that Code Geass is a mech series and the mechs are what's utilized during the wars, it doesn't really feel like it's a mech series because it's just so much more character driven. And I think that's something of a very big testament to making a great war arc in anime. Like war arcs isn't something that we appreciate because like, oh, I love violence. I mean, maybe there's a few of you out there that's like, oh, I need bodies dropping, but it's more so the way it's portrayed, how the characters feel, getting personable with the characters, and between Colin, between Lelouch, between everybody that are in this battlefield of the wars that go on in Code Geass, but especially probably the second to last one, that's where you demonstrate, okay, this is why we care about this war. This is why we care about these characters. This dude is so freaking crafty and tactical. You never know what's about to go down when Lelouch v Britannia is in town. So big shout outs to Code Geass. People don't reference a lot of the wars that go on in that one, but it's a good one. If there was a perfect anime out there, if there was one series I would tell you is not only an incredible anime that features some insane wars, it is in general probably one of the greatest anime I've ever seen, Fate Zero. And the Holy Grail Wars, which is pretty much the majority of the Fate Zero anime as a whole, I mean, it's one big war arc, is damn near one of the greatest wars you will ever see in any anime, period. It's just that freaking damn good between all of the battles that you get, from Ryder to Saber to Gilgamesh. Everything about these battles is just on another freaking level. The art and animation that is put forth in there, because, yeah, you guessed it, Studio Ufotable are the ones that are behind this absolute greatness. The storytelling, Kiritsugu's passion and tactics that he utilizes throughout this thing, because yeah, he is not necessarily on the strength as the people that are summoned on this battlefield, but he still gets it done. And even the philosophical aspects that you get within the war are some of the best and most rich material that you can see in a war. The fact that Ryder goes up to Saber and tells her, you know, King, you're just a sad little girl playing the role. Like, oh my freaking god! Homie didn't have to hit her with a spear. Homie didn't have to give her the hardest punch. Homie didn't have to knife or sword her down or anything of that nature. He simply gave her words that was very much so stinging. It stung me because I was a big Saber fan. Like, oh my god, Ryder, why? And hands down, that might be one of the best war arcs out there. Shit, it might be one of the greatest anime ever, if I'm being honest with you. Highly recommend Fate Zero. So now that we got some of the exceptions out the way, because I wanted to name a bunch of them that they're just classics in and of themselves. Each one of them I could give you a reason why they have the best wars in anime. One of the big battles though that you will see is mainly the big shonen wars that you get. And I wanted to say, unfortunately, it comes in last place, but it's definitely a notable arc that I did want to mention, is Black Clover's The Spade Nation versus Everyone, but in particular, of course, the Clover Kingdom. That arc has some hidden gems in it. Yeah, the ending and the climax was definitely not what fans wanted, especially the fact that the big baddie Lucifero turned out to be very, very... It had an underwhelming climax, which is why I can't put it as a contender for greatest war arcs of all time. But there is one battle within this war that hands down is like, no, you can't deny it. You can say whatever you want about the war as a whole, but the Magna versus Dante battle, which technically had Lucifero in there, so you could technically say that Magna actually did defeat Lucifero before it was all said and done. But easily, that was one of the best moments of this war and why I really appreciated this war. Just in general, the fact that the first half of the war, it ended with people like freaking Noelle and them damn near getting blown to bits and getting blown away thanks to Vonica. The Dark Triad was just other freaking worldly. Xenon, Dante, Vonica, they were just merciless. Like, they did not have a single ounce of empathy for their enemies and their adversaries, and Vonica really gave the works in the first half of this war against Noel and them. Like, it was just bar none vicious and savage. But then that Magna versus Dante with Lucifero in the wings, it felt like I was watching Hunter x Hunter. And while Hunter x Hunter has, you could throw the argument, maybe a war arc with the Chimera Ant, it's kind of like the humans versus ants, but it's a little bit more self-contained. Easily that battle within the war with Magna versus Dante was just like straight up strategy. It demonstrated a way of writing a character that is not the most important, not the most significant, but giving him the greatest payoff you possibly could ask for a kind of side secondary character. It was just marvelous. Again, there was some hidden gems within this, and a lot of the battles, a lot of the power-ups and transformations looked incredible. Asta's black form transformation was freaking amazing. It was just a lot of really awesome stuff. A lot of the payoffs didn't really deliver as much as we anticipated. I mean, that last battle with Lucifero. But yo, shout outs to Yuno and some of the battles that he had, of course, against Xenon and them. There was a lot of that salty run back and revenge, and just, it was really awesome stuff. It's just a little bit disappointing towards the end. But I will wholeheartedly defend that first half of the war. They was not playing games with nobody. But now we're getting into it, because now I'm talking about all straight up wins. All of these war arcs are fantastic war arcs. Bottom line, let's start off with the Paranormal Liberation Front War, the first war of My Hero Academia prior to the one that is the grand finale of the series. Shigaraki basically stood on top of Endeavor like the Statue of Liberty with no absolute F's to give. Yes, I censored myself with F's. Deal with it. This ain't war, this is a video. That war was hands down, bar none, one of the best things of the entirety of My Hero Academia. One of the best arcs of the series as a whole. More so the manga than the anime. The anime just couldn't live up to the expectations that the manga had set forth, between Shigaraki breaking free from being in that lab that Doc Ock had him inside of, and then breaking out to unknown powers of having pretty much majority of what All For One can do, and the fact that majority of the pro heroes all had to focus in on him, Aizawa holding him down, holding his quirks down, and everybody coming in after him, and he still succeeded with barely any quirks at his disposal. He was able to make light works of people like Endeavor and the pro heroes. Gigantomachia running a freaking muck. It was just phenomenal. It's one of the main reasons why personally I say the latest arc of My Hero Academia, the final arc of My Hero, the latest war, shall I say, of the series, just isn't hitting the mark because of that arc. The expectations that were set were so freaking high of how intense it was. The fact that All For One and the Cavalry had to be the ones that saved Shigaraki in the end, it was magnificent. It was brutal. It was devastating. The heroes took massive losses. But easily that is the best arc of My Hero Academia, and hands down a war worthy of praise when it comes to literature and anime and manga. It was just freaking phenomenal. Would I say it's one of the best though? It's up there, but then we got other arcs like the Paradise battle between the Eldians and Marley and Attack on Titan, because that is another major epic and iconic war arc that eventually turns into like a slaughterfest of one dude saying, "If I lose it all, slip and fall, I will never look away." Honestly, that is probably as fantastical as it gets with the Titans, the most realistic war arcs that you will see in anime, simply because you go to some of the points, especially early on, when you got characters like Gabby throwing grenades and ducking for cover, and it was like, okay, you got the Titans utilized as like machines to move the narrative and of course bring it all back into its Attack on Titan, but you have a lot of the extra layers and the politics behind war, what really makes things tick on a real world standpoint. You got, you know, the prejudice aspect, the racism, the segregation between the Marleys, and how much they hate the Eldians for simply existing, thinking that they're devils because of propaganda that was force fed to them, and then vice versa, the Paradise people not even knowing the existence of these people, and then on top of that finding out that, wait a minute, they're one of the main reasons we've been oppressed this entire time. The fact that that pushed Eren even further into the depths of despair, although though. There's just so many layers to why Eren does what he ultimately does, which I will always stand by. Eren Yeager is pretty much the living incarnation of Malcolm X, because homie said, by any means necessary, I am going to free my people from the shackles of bondage, whether it be mental, whether it be physical, the fact that people are being tied up and thrown off of freaking buildings and turned into titans and all of this stuff. Like, Eren had enough, and he said, yeah, I'm gonna do whatever it takes, I don't care. And that's what led us to the situation that, as of the recording of this video, leaves us with the anime of Eren going for it all. But easily, it's one of the best war arcs out there. It just really showcases the travesties of it. You know, double agents type of situations, seeing if you're actually within the enemy camps, they're not that different from you. You know, the propaganda and the hearsay will make you think that, oh my god, these people must be the worst people on earth, but they're not that far different from you. They're just people that are scared and trying to live a good life, and unfortunately led into this situation that led them into war. And some of the Titan battles are hype. Let's not lie about that, dog. Warhammer, Eren, it was just a lot of craziness. Not to mention that Reiner kept on getting back up as many times as we beat his ass down. Ooh, and Armin becoming the Colossal Titan. That was freaking great as well. This is a controversial one. I know a lot of people had issues with it at certain areas, but it's one of my favorite war arcs out there. You probably guessed it. It's the 4th Great Shinobi War of Naruto Shippuden, Naruto, and very controversial because a lot of people say, especially early on, that it kind of dragged on. It was a lot more so going into like 1v1s opposed to a full-scale battle of war. But as the arc progresses, especially once you introduce characters like Itachi, Madara, etc., the gloves completely come off when it comes to this war arc, and the stakes get massively high. A lot of the setups that this series had initially laid down, the groundwork, so to speak, of having stuff like the Ten Tails, Jubi, and Madara, and Obito, and all of the Zetsu really pay off in a major way. It's unfortunate, not far off from Black Clover. It's really the finale that takes this from being an amazing war arc, and it's like, the White Rabbit Goddess did us dirty, ay! Because the battle of Naruto and Sasuke with Sakura versus Madara Uchiha was phenomenal. I mean, actually getting the moment, despite how you say she got the power up, seeing Sakura saying that she reached Naruto and Sasuke getting help from the Sage of Six Paths and boosting up to powers that we had never seen prior to in the series. The reunion of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, Team 7 reuniting for the first time since part 1 of Naruto. Major! The big deaths that we got in there, for better or worse. I mean, rest in peace, Neji. For me personally, I felt like the arc was decent to okay. A lot of the battles, like, you know, the Hanzo situation with Mifune, things like that were okay-ish. I think the arc really picks up once Itachi and Nagato really enter things, and we get, I think it's Naruto meets up with Itachi and them first. That's where I feel like the arc starts to really pick up in a major way. Pretty much once Naruto gets involved, that's when it starts to become, well, Naruto. And again, while it doesn't have the best ending per se because of Kaguya's involvement in things, and at the same time it does start off a bit slow, it's still an awesome war arc, and it's still one of the most popular war arcs in all of anime and manga. So yeah, you kind of got to deal with it. Oh, and of course, once again, I got to stress that it has Madara Uchiha, one of the most badass anime characters of all time, involved, and his involvement is grandiose to the point where he's at one point fighting an entire war against the tailed beast, against an entire army with no freaking eyes. Don't ever tell me that my guy Madara ain't a beast. You're gonna get me mad, son. You're gonna get me tight. Rest in peace to Madara Uchiha. Bring him back in Boruto, damn it. Train Sarada. So okay, I'm getting off course here. You can deny it all you want, but facts are facts, and the fact of the matter is that Bleach's Thousand Year Blood War is one of the most hype wars in general in anime and manga, because yeah, it gets really graphic. I mean, just revisiting the content alone in the first season of the Thousand Year Blood War anime's adaptation of the manga, it really reminded me of like, god damn, dog, it really went hard. Like, I remember back in the day with the manga, there was many times where I was like, yo, best chapter of the week, I don't care, you ain't gonna tell me otherwise, with the battle between Yamamoto and Juha Bach, the battles that you get of Aizen's involvement, and again, which is a common pattern, and I think it's just a problem with anime and manga in general, where the ending of the arc wasn't the most grandiose, and it felt a bit rushed due to, of course, Tite Kubo, the creator and author's health in a decline at that particular point, so things got rushed towards the end. But the brutality, the desperate situation without feeling too one-sided that the Shinigami had to face against against the Vondan Rake. It was insane, dog. Like, one of the best battles in the entirety of the war is one that I never would have expected, which, again, another common theme similar to like Magna and Black Clover's war, is Komamura. Komamura easily has one of the greatest battles in his fight against Bombietta, and one of the most saddest endings to a battle as well, on top of all of that, and that's that people die in this freaking war, okay? I love how this war arc really allowed for other characters outside of the MC to shine. A lot of the captains had some insane battles, for better or worse, and maybe you could argue the ending was a little bit disappointing. Byakuya's fight against Asnod was freaking insane. Rukia achieving new heights of power. Renji against Master Masculine. Hell, even that battle was dope. Bar none, you ain't gonna tell me otherwise that Bleach and Styles and Blood War ain't one of the most hype epic wars you get in anime and manga, period. The ending, similar to a lot of the other war arcs in anime, isn't the greatest, but nevertheless is one hell of a ride. And if you want to see something that is truly a testament to, no, this put the heroes and the good guys through the ringer, Thousand Year Blood War is it. And then for me personally, it's not even a bias, it's just genuinely how I feel, for better or worse, take it or leave it. One Piece's Marineford arc is, in my opinion, if not the greatest, definitely one of the greatest war arcs of all time in anime and manga. It was the first time I ever cried reading a manga chapter of anything, period. The finale with Whitebeard and Ace, just absolutely heartbreaking. Seeing Luffy, one of my favorite things in anime and manga, period, and then better yet, in the midst of a war at that, throwing himself onto the platform where the three admirals are there ready to, you know, zap him into an oblivion, and him not having no fear, grabbing a piece of a ship and thinking he was about to do something. Granted, it was foolish, but nevertheless, the same way Akainu says he respects the tenacity, I feel the same way, because absolutely it was straight up greatness. Seeing Luffy by himself for the first time fighting against this giant war to save his brother, and everything that ensued after that, not to mention the fact that the ramifications of this war meant drastic character development for Luffy as a whole, but just in general, every moment of this war arc was amazing, absolutely incredible. Whitebeard being the man that never ran, that's why he never had a freaking scratch on his back, because homie never turned around. Big shocking revelations of the plot in the midst of the war arc, finding out about Ace's heritage and who he's truly related to. It was honestly one of the most fantastic journeys, and as far as a war arc goes, you can't ask for something better than One Piece Marineford, aka the Paramount War. It was that damn good. What is the best war arc in all of anime? You want to give me a top 5 or a top 3 or just one? Feel free to do so. So laugh for this one. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. Subscribe and hit that bell to get more. Yeah.